Boa tarde a todos e todas. Então, vamos dar início à nossa sessão de agora à tarde. Lembrando a todas as pessoas, nós temos a tradução simultânea, o equipamento, precisa pegar lá fora quem quiser. Nós vamos ter falas em mais de uma língua. E essa nossa sessão de agora à tarde ela vai trazer experiências inspiradoras, um pouco de como podemos levar o conhecimento e tocar as pessoas, como atingir a sociedade, como comunicar com a sociedade. Então, sem mais delongas, eu vou chamar Rodrigo Tomé, produtor, artista, fotógrafo, mergulhador, amigo, né, do oceano, que vai guiar esta sessão.
Boa tarde. A parte mais importante, a Bárbara lembrou, pai do Matheus e do Felipe. Tudo bom, gente? Boa tarde. É um prazer enorme estar aqui com vocês, dividindo esse espaço para a gente falar de algo tão caro e importante para mim. E começo com um fato, um dado interessantíssimo. O oceano aqueceu nos últimos 3 anos mais do que em todo o período anterior já registrado, somado. Vocês sabiam disso? Agora, o mais interessante... Não, responde aí, vamos... Depois do almoço, está todo mundo naquela maré alcalina, devagar. Vamos levantar isso, senão vai ficar difícil para mim. Vocês sabiam que nos últimos 3 anos o oceano aqueceu mais do que em todo o registro histórico anterior somado? Quem sabia desse dado? O mais legal é que só a gente sabe. Ali fora ninguém sabe. E pior ainda um pouco, tem gente que sabe e não se importa, porque não entende o que isso representa para a vida deles. A gente está falhando em comunicar. A gente está comunicando sem criar empatia, sem deixar as pessoas apaixonadas, entendendo por que aquele dado é importante. E isso não é uma tarefa só complexa para o mar, embora para o mar seja mais complexo, né? Mas é para todo ambientalista. Eu, enquanto ambientalista, eu falo para todo mundo que eu tenho o trabalho mais difícil do mundo. Meu trabalho é vender desgraça. Ó, meu irmão, está subindo aí o nível do mar, vai alagar, vai acabar com tudo. Está aquecendo, o planeta está ficando com desenfreado o clima. E aí, quando a gente tem um sucesso absoluto, mobiliza a sociedade, faz as pessoas mudarem os hábitos, e aí a gente consegue fazer com que isso não aconteça, sabe o que a gente entrega? Nada. Não acontece nada. Não tem manchete, não tem história, não tem catástrofe, nada acontece. O que acontece com quem vende isso? Isso daí é um eco chato, está falando besteira, fazendo algo que não tem nenhum sentido. Então, a gente precisa mudar esse pensamento, mudando a maneira e as histórias que a gente conta, principalmente as histórias do mar, que, além de todas essas questões, ainda é invisível, porque ele fica embaixo de uma linha que reflete o céu, reflete a gente, reflete as interações e alterações que a gente faz no meio, mas a gente não consegue ver abaixo dele. É difícil a militância e falar sobre o mar. Então, a gente precisa mudar o pensamento, contar melhores histórias, criar ou recriar uma cultura de aproximação com o mar. Nesse painel, a gente vai discutir como a gente pode contar histórias que façam a audiência se conectar com o mar, cuidar do mar. Eu sou o Rodrigo Tomé, sou um homem branco do Sudeste, carioca, com todos os privilégios, que entende que faz parte do meu papel usar a figura para me comunicar com aqueles que mais precisam escutar, mas só querem falar, mas que aceitam a mensagem vinda de alguém como eu. É uma frase, uma mensagem muito dura, mas verdadeira. E, para se juntar a mim, nesse painel, eu convido a minha amiga, que eu conheci hoje pessoalmente, mas já há algum tempo virtualmente, Isabela Cavaletti, diretora da Seaspiracy Foundation. Peço que vocês a recebam com uma calorosa recepção. A Isabela já pode sentar, que também vou fazer isso. Você vai sentar desse lado, eu sento do outro. A Isabela representa a Seaspiracy, que é um movimento que começou através de um filme, e o seu legado, que mudou a vida de muita gente, inclusive a minha. Eu já usei o Seaspiracy para convencer as pessoas a pararem de comer os bichos do mar. Minha esposa, é um caso. Obrigado. Agora nós temos um problema técnico.
Hello. Yeah. So I'll continue in English because I speak Portuñol. But thank you so much, Rodrigo, for the invitation. It's always a pleasure to speak about our work. So many of you probably, or maybe not, know about the documentary Seaspiracy. It came out in 2021. The directors, Ali and Lucy Tabrizi, who filmed it. And I joined about 3 years ago when they turned it into a foundation. And I've been the director of the organization since. And we kind of used the media reach that Seaspiracy grew into, mainly on social media, to affect positive change. I really think that good storytelling, and we do it both in short format like Instagram Reels, and also longer format articles, has the ability to affect change also at a policy level. And so that's, I think, what I'm here to talk about. How do we do it? And I really relate with what Rodrigo said earlier about, selling doom, because Seaspiracy really did focus a lot on that. But the ocean space particularly suffers from an out of sight, out of mind problem. And if there's a lot of ocean activists in the room, they know what I'm talking about. Few really have that deep relationship with the ocean. It is a highly superficial one, maybe a vacation to the beach a couple of times a year if people are lucky. So it's really hard for anyone to really imagine what is happening down below. And that's what I feel like is our work, apart from also really spotlighting whatever news as well as campaigns are happening around the world. So Seaspiracy. Here you have cool. Okay. So Seaspiracy Foundation has 3 real goals in mind: to encourage a shift to a more plant-based diet, to create and enforce no-take marine reserves, to protect 30% of our oceans by 2030, and to end the destructive fishing subsidies. Since 2021, since the release of the documentary, we've been, as a foundation, focusing on 2 ways to achieve these goals, which is through public media, social media content, and our newsletter, as well as really harnessing a network with more grassroots activists, local activists around the world, which is how I met Rodrigo maybe a year ago. And really showing that Seaspiracy is there to lend a hand, to amplify the message, to help with whatever smaller campaign is happening around the world. And I'll show you more of the examples. So we work by creating this network with ocean lovers around the world who keep us in the loop with breaking news, urgent stories that need help, as well as our team of 2 people. We'll spend pretty much day and night just trolling the internet to see what other news might have slipped our network. Then we investigate the stories and we publish it across our channels. And if there's a campaign, then we have a whole sort of way to really create a call to action to see how we can best change whatever that campaign wants. So if it's a petition, if they don't have a petition, how do we get them to create a petition? And these are some of the examples that we have done so far. I think one of the biggest, which was actually right after the documentary, was when the World Trade Organization announced that it would create the first ever environmental agreement to end harmful subsidies. Of course, if you look at the small print, it's not that comprehensive on what, as many harmful fishing could include a lot more harmful fishing subsidies, but it was a huge step forward. The World Trade Organization had never before thought of ever including an environmental agreement. And I personally think that Seaspiracy documentary was sort of a catalyst for that to happen, because it really focused on fishing subsidies being a problem. I always talk about supermarket sushi, like you wouldn't be able to have supermarket sushi if it wasn't for fishing subsidies, and that cost, that sort of fictitious cost, is what is destroying the oceans, right? They wouldn't be able to plunder the oceans if they didn't have that help from the government. Similarly, in Ecuador and the Galapagos, the government was actually trying to reintroduce shark fishing in 2022 in, one of the most famous marine protected areas in the world. If you guys follow Seaspiracy, you would know that marine protected areas are not really protected from much. But in the Galapagos, at least shark fishing wasn't allowed. And when this plan came to our attention, we did a whole campaign. And then the Marine Reserve sort of retired that plan. In 2023, we worked with a South African grassroots organization, a local NGO that was opposing Shell. And they're really awesome because it was really a group of both indigenous activists on the coast of South Africa, as well as it was a big legal effort, as well as like pro bono lawyers. And they, we got a linky? And they just needed help to amplify their campaign. And so this is kind of the example of how we do it. So basically after we amplified the campaign, after a few months, there was a whole court process that they were going through. And we have no way of really knowing whether the post actually had an effect. But there is a sort of difference, I think, when it's a very local problem and you're able to reach a global audience. And I think that's what our sort of target and what we do really well. And in this case, Shell lost. Shell lost the court case, and Shell had to retrieve all its plans of starting oil drilling off the coast of South Africa. And then last summer, we also participated with a lot of other local NGOs in Iceland to really pressure the government to stop whaling. Whaling has been there's been a moratorium, probably as a lot of you know, since the 80s to ban whaling around the world. So like whale populations are rising. But in Iceland has left the moratorium, and there's a really fascinating case as to why they keep whaling, because there's just one whaler that doesn't want to stop. And so we've been supporting this local NGOs. And last year, they did a huge email campaign petitioning the local government to stop whaling. And they banned whaling for the summer last year. That sort of email campaign probably saved around 50 whales from being hunted. And that also translates in carbon saving, because whales are like amazing friends to the planet. Then we also, these are sort of some examples, but I think, that one's kind of cool. I don't know if a lot of you are aware with what trolling is. Trolling is one of the most devastating forms of fishing, but also the most common. Pretty much like in the post, you can see, takes everything from the seabed. And we work very closely with a French NGO called Bloom, and they are amazing at investigating, particularly France, that has one of the largest fishing fleets in the world. And last year, we collaborated with them to help them stop their initiative to stop the largest pelagic trawler in the world from devastating the ocean. And that was an amazing victory, because we, together with Bloom, managed to not even get it into the water, because France, for example, will have all these laws protecting, and the European Union, and this is like a huge hypocrisy within the European Union, they will have all these environmental laws as to how big the trawler can be. However, European companies are allowed to, let's say, have the largest trawler. In this case, it was a French trawler, just as long as it operates outside of the European Union. So I think that's like a very telling problem within the European Union, because it's sort of this, taker mentality that it can just plunder the oceans on the other side of the world, where environmental laws are harder to enforce. And so it was an amazing campaign to work on, because it was both very interesting for Europeans to find out, like your taxpayer money is going to pay for the largest trawler in the world. However, we're not allowed to troll in Europe, so we're just going to troll in West Africa. And that's sort of was amazing that's why we do this work, because it was super gratifying to learn that, we managed to stop that campaign. And the most recent two, this one is long lining in the Maldives, was also a campaign that we helped, which was, long lining. I don't know if many people know what it is, but it's a really sort of easy way of fishing. You just leave lines and lines with hooks and just wait to see how many fish are gonna take the bait, and then after a while you're gonna pick it up. And the out of sight, out of mind for me really is really true, because I have been writing about long lining and gill nets and all the type of fishing practices, trolling, for years now, and have only really seen a gill net for the first time like 4 weeks ago, swimming here in the coast here. And I think, and similar with long lining, I joined a Sea Shepherd campaign where we were like picking out long lines out of the Mediterranean Sea. And the statistic is crazy. Like the Mediterranean Sea has more abandoned long lines that basically there's so many kilometers that they could reach the moon. So if you would spread the long lines that are abandoned in the Mediterranean, you could reach the moon, from Earth to the moon. And those are just the abandoned ones. So every day, people are dropping more. And in this campaign, the Maldives has actually an amazing ban, which is probably one of the few countries that bans long lining. And they were discussing reopening it. So we joined the campaign to stop it, and it was successful. So I think, within Seaspiracy, it was like the documentary really focuses on the destructive fishing practices. And what the foundation does with our media is to continue that legacy, continue that work, and show what is happening in real time everywhere. It's very hard to stay everywhere, but we really try to kind of to inform our public of how they can help. So having a lot of call to actions, what they can do, and also showing that we are lending hand to grassroots activists around the world, that they're not alone, and that we can support.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Isabella. We just figured out how to do this kind of format for today. So I'm going to get back to Portuguese para apresentar pouquinho do que é o oceano, bem dinâmico. Obrigado. E contar para vocês pouco de como foi que a gente chegou até aqui, né? A gente acredita e entendeu com o tempo que a gente se conecta com as questões através de histórias, né? O storytelling faz com que qualquer mensagem tenha muito mais capacidade de ser absorvida pela audiência. Contar histórias, em vez de só entregar dados, faz com que até 60% mais de resultado se consiga na prática. Dizem os números que 5 vezes mais penetração na sociedade uma história tem do que um dado só solto quando contado. E a gente começa fazendo uma pergunta, uma audiência muito segmentada para amar e entender o que é a nossa relação com o mar, como é que você olha para o oceano? Como recurso, você olha para o oceano com empatia, você olha para o oceano com amor. A gente entende como olhamos para o oceano, mas não consegue entender como a gente faz para fazer com que as pessoas fora dessa nossa bolha olhem para ele com o mesmo carinho. A gente escolheu contar histórias que transformaram, assim você consegue me escutar? Não, tem que ser muito perto, né? que transformaram o mar, fazem com que o mar seja o lar dos mistérios, dos medos. Todo mundo, quando escuta uma palavra como tubarão, logo arrepia, né? Fica tudo tenso, nervoso. É isso que a gente escolheu contar. A gente fez e transformou o mar, que já tem dificuldade por causa, de novo, do espelho d'água, que faz com que a gente não consiga entender tudo que fica e vive ali embaixo da abundância que é aquele espaço. A gente transformou o mar no lar dos mistérios e dos medos. E hoje, a palavra que mais causa reações sinépticas de medo no cérebro do ser humano é tubarão. Mais que fogo, do que o ex-presidente do Brasil, essas outras coisas. Tubarão é a palavra que mais causa reações de medo no cérebro do ser humano. Isso é o resultado da cultura que a gente criou, das histórias que a gente escolheu. E, de acordo com essas histórias, eu vou me apresentar. Minha mãe acha que eu sou um sobrevivente, que eu resisti e sobrevivi a mais de 500 mergulhos com tubarões com todos os dedos. Muita gente me olha como, uau, mas você é muito corajoso, muito aventureiro. Como você consegue fazer isso e não tem nem medo? Eu só mergulho e sobrevivo, porque, na verdade, eu não corro risco e a gente precisa contar essas histórias de uma maneira diferente. Eu vim de uma família privilegiada, como falei aqui no começo, pude fazer escolhas e escolhi me dedicar ao mar desde criança. Eu acho que nunca tive uma outra intenção, um outro desejo profissional que não fosse ser igual já custou. Agora que é a hora que a gente divide a plateia, né? Já custou, todo mundo aqui já ouviu falar, mas poucos lembram dos programas que passavam aqui no Brasil, na Bandeirantes, tarde da noite. Eu ficava esperando a hora do programa começar, porque precisava ver o Já Custou, contar as histórias da exploração amazônica, das navegações ao redor do mundo, de mostrar um pouco do mistério do mar para a gente. E aquilo dali me mudou, criou em mim uma vontade tão grande que nunca me desfiz dela. E todo mundo achava que era bonitinho. Ai, que bonitinho, ele quer ser igual o Já Custou. Aí eu fui crescendo e nunca deixei de querer ser igual o Já Custou. E tive dificuldades em fazer e ser apoiado nas minhas escolhas, mas segui e sempre pensei no que eu podia fazer para fazer com que a gente olhasse para o mar com mais carinho. Comecei a levar as pessoas para mergulhar. Afinal de contas, nada muda mais a nossa percepção do mar do que está no mar. E mergulhar é uma experiência única. Quem aqui já mergulhou, teve a oportunidade de fazer scuba dive? Muda, né? Cara, primeiro de tudo, porque é uma coisa que pouca gente fala na hora de vender o curso, cara, tu voa. Você não precisa ir para a Lua. Meu irmão, tu voa aqui. Você entra dentro d'água, pã. Nossa, que experiência sensacional, que sensação fantástica. Não existe nenhuma outra forma de conexão que seja tão presente em todos os poros quanto está debaixo d'água, mergulhando, flutuando, boiando. Eu passei na minha... acontece. E essa experiência foi muito legal, que ela foi na África do Sul, foi a única vez na vida que eu fui expulso por um animal. Foram pelas Harbor Seals de Cape Town. Elas são muito amiguinhas, até demais. E a gente conta, depois de começar a mostrar para as pessoas que o fundo do mar era incrível, eu fazia isso com 1 a 1, porque o mergulho tem isso, né? É muito transformador, mas é uma experiência individual. Você vai fazer uma pessoa mudar, duas. E aí eu comecei a fotografar, na época ainda era filme, vocês não podem não acreditar, boa parte de vocês, mas antigamente a gente tinha e entrava dentro d'água com 36 fotos, se fosse rico. Porque aí você comprava um filme de 36 poses. Aí você tirava as fotos, não via o que você fez, depois você ficava lá no shopping esperando elas passarem assim, e você via que nada saiu dali do máximo, você tirou uma foto da lâmina d'água, o debaixo d'água é linda. E era assim que funcionava, eu fiz isso durante muito tempo e percebi que imagens faziam com que as pessoas se conectassem porque elas não conhecem o que tem ali embaixo. Então, se apresentar de alguma forma uma maneira de ver, conhecer um pouquinho daquele mundo, fazia com que mais gente se encantasse. E, comercialmente, era interessante, porque mais gente se encantando, mais pessoas se inscreviam para fazer meu curso de mergulho. Olha, eram 2 vezes ganhando. E aí, eu comecei depois a fazer vídeos das pessoas que iam mergulhar com a gente. Em 2004, eu comecei a trabalhar com televisão. De lá para cá, são 21 anos trabalhando com televisão e levando o mar de uma maneira mais superficial, verdade, mas também com uma abrangência um pouco maior para dentro da casa das pessoas. Porque eu acredito de verdade que isso faz diferença. Abrir janelas para o oceano faz com que a gente tenha possibilidade de se apaixonar pelo mar. Eu me apaixonei assim. Eu não venho de uma família de navegadores, de mergulhadores, de surfistas, de velejadores. As pessoas da minha família, meu pai e minha mãe, eram médicos. Não tinham essa paixão pelo mar. Eu me apaixonei pela chance que eu tive através da exposição num programa de TV. E eu acho que você criar oportunidades de expor o mar para as pessoas faz com que a gente aumente a chance das pessoas se apaixonarem pelo mar. E eu faço isso usando tudo que tenho de mais potente, que é o amor que eu sinto. E eu faço isso dentro de casa. E é uma história interessante. Esse aí é meu filho com 2 anos. E a narração da mãe dele é o máximo. Eu juro que eu sofro de prancha. Bodyboard era só porque eu estava levando meu filho. Tá? Só para deixar isso claro aqui. Desde pequeno, os meus 2 filhos foram, por livre e espontânea natalidade, nasceram ali naquele lugar, não tinha muita escolha, eles são expostos ao mar. Esse daqui é o meu filho mais velho, que hoje tem 15 anos, no aniversário dele, de 8 anos. Encontrando o bicho, o animal mais perigoso do oceano. O pai dele, ele do outro lado. Brabo. Não que eu seja bravo, mas é que eu sou ser humano. E aí esse, ainda mais assim, né, como eu, é bem perigoso mesmo. Se isso funciona, gente, esse daí é o Matheus, na época ele tinha 1 ano e meio, com todos os únicos bichos de pelúcia que ele teve na vida. Super eclético lá em casa, a gente podia tudo. E se funciona, tá aqui a resposta. Eu não tava, isso daqui, eu recebi esse vídeo. Orgulho do pai.
Gente, que sensacional. Mas tubarão não morde as pessoas, não?
Não.
Não, por que não? Eles são bonzinhos? Então ficam falando coisas que não são verdade dos tubarões. Então por isso hoje eu vou te ensinar a tocar Baby Shark. Legal, né?
Tudo bem, Baby Shark é maneiro, já funcionou, levou as crianças para um outro lugar, percebendo o tubarão não como sendo um assassino. E funciona. Eu vi isso em casa. A gente expor, escolher as histórias que a gente conta, faz com que as pessoas eles se apaixonem, se conectem da maneira que tem que ser, que deveria ser, né? E que não é tão potente assim, porque, de novo, a gente escolheu histórias que são mais fáceis e engajam com mais facilidade, de medo, de pavor, de bichos e feras. E muita gente fala assim, não, porque Spielberg tem um papel importante nisso, foi a partir dali que a gente começou a ficar com medo. Eu sempre, nessa hora, penso assim, cara, que coitado, tá, tem um papel importante, mas mapas de navegação das eras das grandes navegações, tinha aqueles rabisquinhos assim, né, que representavam os continentes, e aí no meio, tinha a raia demoníaca com chifre, tinham as sereias que atraíam os marinheiros e matavam eles, as narval, cachalote, a Moby Dick, só tinha desgraça, tinha nada no meio que representasse um alívio. Pô, mas não, o cara fica lá, vê um pôr do sol bonito no meio do oceano, não tinha não. Era só desgraça. A gente sempre representou o mar como sendo o lar dos mistérios, dos medos. E aí, durante a pandemia, eu sempre fui um ativista pelo mar. Durante a pandemia, tive uma experiência com um filme que fez algum sucesso com festivais, chamado A Voz do Oceano, que teve uma percepção diferente de como contar essa nossa dependência e relação com o mar através de empatia, através de amor, através de inspirações. Não era aquele projeto de militância que a gente apontava tudo que a gente faz errado, que é fundamental, e a gente faz isso até hoje, mas era algo que conectava a gente através de um lugar que inspirava a gente a olhar para o mar de outra forma. E aí nasceu, a partir daí, o Oceano. É um programa de TV, porque foi assim que começamos essa aventura, mas ele expandiu para mais do que um programa de TV e se tornou um movimento. É um formato diferente, enquanto programa de televisão, não é uma reportagem, não é um apresentador, eu não vou nos lugares e conto a história de alguém, ou eu reporto dado ou uma notícia, não tenho nenhuma pretensão de fazer isso, nem formação. Então, me percebo, me vejo como um veículo, experimento as histórias, experimento o que cada um tem para contar, e através das vivências, emoções que eu sinto, a audiência tem a oportunidade de viver e sentir aquilo, e se conectar com essas inspirações que levam a gente a olhar para o mar de outra forma. E o Oceano está na 4ª temporada, eu trouxe, a 4ª temporada estreia agora em outubro, para ilustrar. Sei que tem muita gente que não é daqui. Se vocês puderem assistir o Oceano, a gente está precisando de audiência. Então, os que são daqui, por favor, assistam, digam, comentem na plataforma Globo, diga o melhor programa que existe, por favor. Mas eu trouxe um teaser, 4 minutinhos, para mostrar para vocês um pouco de como a gente tenta transportar para dentro da casa das pessoas essas conexões com o mar. Esse é um um teaser da 4ª temporada, são 4 minutinhos, só para a gente saber do que estamos falando.
O propósito da Marulho é
transformar uma das formas mais perigosas de poluição marinha em novos produtos junto com as comunidades costeiras. Aqui é a praia de Matariz, é onde a gente fica. Matariz já foi uma das maiores vilas da Ilha Grande e cresceu muito em torno desse negócio branco aqui, que é uma antiga fábrica de sardinha, que também é o espaço que a gente usa hoje. E por aqui ter toda essa história com a sardinha, ainda tem muitos barcos sardineiros, mas são barcos de maior escala. Eles param para fazer manutenção das redes. E essa manutenção quem faz são os pequenos pescadores, os pescadores artesanais.
Quando estourava a rede, fazia varir na rede, lascava, aí botava em terra para remendar, né? Enquanto o barco fosse no rio e voltava,
ficava remendando as redes.
A parte que tá boa, o barco pega, enfia dentro e vai pescar de novo, e o resto acaba ficando tudo ali, largado. Essa rede que a gente começa a pegar para usar para os produtos, é uma rede que já tem uma resistência maior e tá de melhor qualidade.
Aqui pega aqui, ó, aí, nessa aí.
Pega essa daqui?
Nessa aí. Não, nessa aqui, Bia.
Nessa aqui primeiro.
É.
É uma das, né? Porque tem várias, né? Tem várias bolsas lindas.
Já vi que a senhora é toda orgulhosa.
Ah, tô.
A gente faz algumas ações de limpeza sub por ano, quando a gente sabe lugares que tem rede, vai lá e tira. Vamos para nossa 3ª ou 4ª limpeza sub no Provetar. E as redes que a gente tira do mar, quase todas são podres pra caramba e não dá pra usar, só dá pra usar pra parte de reciclagem mesmo.
Mas ainda assim é fundamental que elas saiam do mar.
Com certeza, com certeza. Essas redes elas vão parar no mar, elas continuam só matando, é o que a gente chama de pesca fantasma. A pesca fantasma ela faz um ciclo, uma rede largada no mar. Ali foi um peixe. Daí o próprio peixe em decomposição ali vai atrair um caranguejo, daí o caranguejo acaba atraindo outros predadores maiores, até chegar no topo da cadeia, né? Um golfinho pode ficar preso, pode, uma baleia.
Rede é uma das coisas mais complexas para a água, né? Porque além de ter o problema do plástico em si, ela continua servindo ao seu propósito quando fica dentro d'água, né? Matando peixes e outros animais marinhos. Mas vamos para a água então. Fui. Esse aqui tá até pequeno, mas esses cabos aqui que são com alma, que tem um outro fio por dentro, é muito difícil cortar. E dentro dessa daqui, a gente achou um peixe vivo ainda. Aí para tudo, tira o peixe, deixa o peixe embora. Você faz essas conexões, as malhas, aquelas múltiplas conexões de um fio que vai se transformando em outra coisa. O teu negócio realmente não é só uma rede de pesca.
Obrigada.
Eu que agradeço por ter deixado a gente de alguma forma vir participar, ver.
Um prazer.
Foi uma experiência incrível.
A gente, na televisão, comunica buscando inspirações, maneiras da gente olhar para o mar de uma forma diferente. Mas, embora velho, descobrimos na internet uma outra forma de comunicar com uma capilaridade maior, uma potência grande de atingir gente. E, aos 50 anos, quase, virei influencer. E começamos a fazer outros formatos, outras maneiras de
Isso sim,
conectar com as pessoas. Essa pode ser áudio. Trouxe 3 exemplos ali, mas eu já vi que vai dar uma confusão se deixar aqui. A gente também não estava rápido. Mas falar e transportar na internet essa mensagem, fazendo que mais gente consiga receber, de alguma forma, um pouco de uma provocação para criar um pensamento que faça com que dê uma oportunidade de pensar sobre o mar de uma maneira diferente, já vale o dia. A ideia do projeto Oceano na internet não é criar um pensamento formatado e te entregar e falar, cara, a partir de agora tu pensa assim, tá? Nenhuma intenção de fazer isso. Mas é de provocar. E é bem provocadora a maneira de se comunicar, é de provocar a pensar diferente, a criar uma conexão através de uma outra provocação, de um outro olhar. Que a gente escolheu contar histórias tortas e complexas do mar. E eu penso que na língua portuguesa, e agora a galera da tradução simultânea e que não fala português vai querer me matar, mas tudo bem, vou entrar nessa história, porque eu acho que faz todo sentido. A gente, na língua portuguesa, desenvolveu uma maneira de administrar a nossa língua que a gente atribuiu gênero a tudo que existe. Meu irmão, isso é o microfone, o sapato, a calça. As coisas têm gênero. E a gente perdeu uma oportunidade única de fazer com que a nossa maneira de olhar para o mar ela mudasse na nossa forma de se relacionar a ele. Porque a gente, quando imagina lá na mesa em Portugal, assim, vamos atribuir gênero das coisas. Aí foi lá, botou uma coisa. Mar. Aí o cara pensou assim, pô, não, mar é brabo, sinistro, pô, fortão, só os bravos, então é masculino. Bota aí, masculino, então é o mar. Mas aí eu acho que faltou ali naquela hora uma conversa melhor no ouvido da pessoa que estava fazendo aquela parada ali, porque ele não olhou direito porque é o mar. O mar é a fonte de toda a vida no planeta. A gente está aqui respirando porque o mar cuida da gente. O mar acalenta, o mar regula a gente, a nossa temperatura, o nosso clima. Nada é mais maternal nesse planeta do que o mar, nada é mais feminino. E ainda assim, atribuímos gênero masculino, porque é isso que a gente faz. Se a gente tivesse atribuído o gênero correto, e o mar fosse mulher, toda vez que a gente se relacionasse a ele, a gente não ia o mar, a gente ia amar. E eu tenho certeza que só essa mudança de pensamento mudava a maneira da gente olhar ele. Eu acredito tanto, a única tatuagem que eu tenho é o amor pelo mar, o amar, com o gênero correto. Bom, a gente apresentou muito rápido um pouco do que é o Seaspiracy, um pouco do que é o oceano, e a ideia agora, num formato único, inovador, extremamente audacioso, a gente quer bater um papo. A gente vem de um lugar de privilégio. Temos aqui um menino, um homem, gostei do menino, que eu mesmo intitulei, um homem branco, brasileiro, do Sudeste, uma mulher italiana, mãe de uma filhinha linda agora, branca, os dois cheios de privilégio, e contamos histórias baseadas nas nossas experiências e verdades. E, para deixar esse espaço, esse lugar, como deve ser, mais diverso, mais importante, para que seja enriquecedor para todo mundo, e não temos nenhum combinado, e isso vai ser uma questão muito louca na vida, porque tomara que alguém participe. Eu queria ver se alguém das Ilhas Caribenhas ou da África pode vir aqui, em 5 minutos, contar um pouco de alguma experiência de como comunicação mudou a maneira de fazer com que a sua comunidade olhasse para o mar diferente. Agora é a hora da verdade. Alguém, Ilhas Caribenhas, África, gostaria de vir aqui dividir um pouco dessa experiência com a gente? Oi? Das Ilhas Pacíficas, das ilhas, de países, ilhas, das ilhas. Alguém? Ninguém? Puxa vida, jura? Queria tanto que alguém viesse falar aqui. Então, não tendo isso, a gente continua numa proposta diferente. A gente tem Bárbara, eu não sei como é que faz isso, mas tem um QR Code que a gente coloca. Opa! Adorei, muito obrigado. Me salvou, 45 do segundo tempo. É o delay da tradução simultânea, provavelmente. Legal. Thank you. We have another microphone. Thank you. Thank you for having you here. What's your name? Gabriela, you can speak on the microphone, please. And let us know. The floor is yours. Yes. Take the stage. Go in front of everybody.
So, in Africa, we don't have the diving experiences.
He loves me.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have enough divers. And in Ghana, we are now starting a program to introduce diving to the community or people at large. In the local community, you could see how they are very passionate about the ocean, especially because they depend on it for food and also a source of livelihood, because you see the kids play around the beaches, and that's all they know. But then in the urban areas, we see that is all they know for relaxation, and then they also tend to keep the place as rubbish dump. Whenever they relax, they leave the plastics over there, and it's very terrible. But then you can see the difference between the urban areas and the rural areas and how each of them communicate or have the relationship between the ocean. One side only sees it as a source of relaxation and for parties and a good scene for relaxation and recreational activities. And one is mostly using it for livelihoods, especially for fishing activities and stuff like that. Yeah, so that is how in my country, Ghana, two communities are seen to relate differently to the ocean.
Thank you so very much for your contribution, for share with us. Hey, thank you. Can you join us, please? What's your name?
Hi, my name is
Stacy. Nice
Hello.
to meet you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
The stage is yours.
Thank you. Just sharing about indigenous communities in the Caribbean and the connection to the ocean. There is a strong spiritual connection, so it is seen as a place of both emotional and physical sustenance. And we also have indigenous practices that involve sustainable fishing and things like whaling, actually. So from an indigenous perspective, there is a focus on the blue economy, but in a way that's a bit extractive. And we're trying to see how that concept of the blue economy can be more respectful of or take into account the ocean as a place that we can honor and revere and that gives us some sense of peace, rather than just seeing it as somewhere that tourists can go and that we can just extract our food. So we just want to change the narrative a little bit. Thank you.
That's our dream. I do believe that's the way to go. Thank you, Stacy. Okay, well, thank you, Stephanie. The floor is yours.
Thank you. So she gave the Ghana experience, but I'm going to give the Nigerian experience. So in Nigeria, over a decade ago, was a challenge having people connect from the scientific way with the ocean. However, they had their own way of connection. It's a spiritual connection, it's a cultural connection, they are traditional knowledge. And when I go into my institute, which is the Nigerian Institute for Oceanography and Marine Research, and as a science communicator, I realized that we're not connecting well. And I chose to make myself the enabler between the society and the research. So now we have the local community connecting well with the scientists, and we have reframed the way we do science because I make sure that they listen to the local community. And I give you an example. The plastic situation in our country has received so much attention because some of us refuse to talk about plastic the negative way. We began to make people see that plastic is a resource. And as a result of that, it has become an issue of policy debate. And right now, we're making progress. In Lagos State, you don't go to beaches and find plastic anymore. In fact, in the whole of Lagos State, as soon as you're dropping a plastic bottle, somebody is picking it up. And so I just thought I should share that. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. Well, I think we should go on English from now on. And, well, we have some questions during our presentations. And, well, we want to talk a little bit about what we have on perceptions of the audience. So I have one question here that is, how Seaspiracy was a really great success in order to make people think about the fishery industry, but in other hand, it was very criticized by fishery scientists. So how do you decide which campaigns to amplify? That's a tricky question, and I don't know.
So, I mean, we choose pretty much grassroots campaigns, so local activists, and it tends to have the same narrative, follow the same narrative, which is a David and Goliath scenario. So we tend to side with the Davids of the world and give them an international arena to amplify their message. It's not necessarily, I think, you know, Seaspiracy, the documentary, is very it's very radical in the sense it's very much one-sided against all types of fishing. However, if you pay close attention to the end of the documentary, there's also a part that touches upon how, particularly in West Africa, local fishermen are also suffering the consequences of industrial fishing. So mainly our target within Seaspiracy Foundation is to keep shedding that light, that it's not, you know, the local traditional fishermen, you know, like here on this coast would be the Caiçaras. They're not our target. We're not working to dismantle that at all, actually. I worked with a campaign. This is actually for my other work, but I wrote a story, and my other work is this platform called eConnect, where we use long format storytelling to really influence, to really show the Davids, in this case, the unsung heroes of the world. And I interviewed a few years ago this amazing guy in Mexico who started an ocean conservation group in La Paz, in Baja California. And he wanted to target illegal fishermen. And he, by chance, rented his office in the area where all the illegal fishermen lived. So he went as like the, you know, enemy to them. So what he did is he started a football club, and all the illegal fishermen's kids joined. And then he was sort of an insider, and he became friends with them. And so he worked with, let's say, what would be the, you know, the problem, which was the illegal fishing that was happening in Baja California. And he showed them how instead of, you know, using destructive fishing methods, they could regenerate the ensenada there, the bay there. And now, you know, fast forward 10 years later, La Paz regenerated its whole bay. It is known for being one, you know, the open air aquarium that Jacques Cousteau used to go to. And I interviewed one of the fishermen, and they have this beautiful grin on their face, being like, I was an illegal fisherman. I did things, you know, underground, and now I use my hands not to take, but to give back, you know. And they make 5 times more because he taught them how to essentially do like a sustainable clam company. So they sell a lot more clams now at a higher price. They send their kids to school, and you know, the kids are proud of what their family does, and there's no more illegal fishing. Because if you do a top-down thing where the government says, right, that type of fishing is illegal, the community doesn't care. They won't necessarily follow it. It's so abstract that, you know, Mexico City says that that's illegal, and they won't care on the other side of Mexico. And for me, that really shows the power of actually supporting a community and actually listening to them and finding a compassionate solution that actually it's never simple. It's never, oh, just stop fishing, you know? And that doesn't make sense either. You need to work. A lot of the food intake of these coastal communities traditionally comes from the ocean. You know, you can't just come in and tell them to stop what they've been doing for generations. But there is a beautiful way that activist organizations can actually come within the community and find ways to regenerate. Because if you regenerate the ocean, actually it's a win-win situation. You get more fish, and also the fishermen get more fish, right? And so it's actually a process of communicating that the real enemy, if you're going to have an enemy, is the big industrialists. And they're usually not sitting on any coast. They are in their mansion in the capital city. And, you know, they have these big trawlers, shrimp trawlers, sardine trawlers. And they're, you know, machines, they're working machines that are lobbying the government to not have any legislation go through. So, yeah, we tend to, when we choose the campaigns, we tend to discover them, kind of like coming across Rodrigo's posts, and just give them a shout out saying, like, we love what you're doing. Let us know if you want to collaborate, and we'll, you know, put pressure if we can. That's it.
It's something that you can see in every aspect of our society. Nowadays, everything tends or needs to be, for most of the people, like black or white. There's no gray in the middle. Everything is like either you want to end fishing at all, or you are supporting the fish. That's not true. Everything in our lives are in between two very opposed truths. So that's an issue, and we see that a lot at Oceano as well, that we cannot not agree with something, but we don't want to end it at all. We just want to find and manage a way to make it better, and especially including the people that really needs, the people that is really put the hands on it and making it happen in the traditional way. During the shootings of the season 4, that trailer that we just saw, we came out with an issue that I don't even knew that it exists. That the big sardine trawlers that's still around here in Ilha Grande during the sardine season, they come closer to the shore, and with a lot of bad nets, they drop around 6 tons of nets at the small island with the small fishermen, so they can fix it, because it's not going to be used for a time on, because of the season is ending, and then they will go to another method of fishing, and the small fisherman that lives in an island across Rio de Janeiro state, he has like 5-6 tons of net in his small backyard, and he's fixed just a little portion of it. And when the guy of the big boat came back, he just put back on the boat this small portion, and everything else is his problem. And what he's going to do with like tons of rot fish net? Nothing. And the really bad side of it is that we are in the fish industry, as far as I can see, and I'm not a scientist, and I allowed myself to change perspectives and ideas, is that when we put a lot of pressure in a small area like that by commercial fishing, we put the traditional guy out of the job, and his only way to go through is to be an employee for the commercial fishing, and he thinks that this is his solution for now on, which is like, I think, the worst way to go. So it's complicated and complex. And what do you think that is the most important thing to create some balance between what you need to communicate rough, very like pointed to the issue, and what you have to communicate in a more inspirational way, and what is more effective? There is any balance, any magical link that goes between those two methods? What do you guys at Seaspiracy think that you can do to balance a little bit that?
I mean, I think within Seaspiracy, we like to think we are the voice of the voiceless, so marine creatures mainly. And since we don't put our faces, you know, obviously Ali did in the documentary, but within the team, we're a bit behind the scenes. So we have a bit of a no filter policy and no bullshit, no, you know, no sugarcoating what's happening. And we like it that way in the sense that we're funded by reader donations. So any reader or follower that wants to support us can. So we are not tied to anyone else's opinion, any bigger organization. And that gives us a lot of freedom. And we've have relationships with other organizations that are much bigger, have much bigger operations, that they have more of like a face that they need to save, and they have like diplomatic ties that they need to keep. And so they'll send us their sort of undercover investigation and we'll say like, you guys can publish it, we can't, you know, we can't for this and this reason. And so we like to have that sort of reputation within the organizations. Like, okay, there's something you guys can't publish because you're a legal office in London, but you found this out, we'll publish it for you, you know? And, you know, we don't care what people will think in a way. You know, we know our supporters support us because of that, in a way, because we don't have all those ties. At a personal level, I think it is hard, what you were saying before, to always be this kind of doomsday, you know, teller. That's why we do also focus a lot on the successes of the campaigns, the good news that have come to us as well. But we don't kind of sugarcoat it. I think a lot of the world is dissatisfied with the media, right? I don't know, personally, I don't believe half the things that I see on the news. So at Seaspiracy, we try to say what, you know, would be unfiltered otherwise. We try to really say it as it is and not make it cute just to gain more followers or something. We say the truth, whatever comes after, you know.
Not to have strings attached is always good. It's really hard to find funding when you don't have strings attached. We find that we face the same problem here with Oceano. It's to get independent. You cannot be like supported financially by any big corporation, and it's really hard. And but it's something that I do believe as well that we should do, and to be more independent, and it's important to build the credibility. And but there is another aspect that is important, and here in this community is even more important to talk about a little bit, is that it's for most of the campaigns that we present on internet, it's really hard to find a connection with the daily lives of the regular person, with the people that are like home. They don't really understand their connections with the sea. It's really hard to find a hook that make the message really touch the people in their daily lives. And we find our ways to do that by provoking, by making jokes. I do put my face on it, and sometimes I have a lot of weird messages because of that. But anyway, we try to do that by making fun or making provocations to make the message more edible for the regular people. What do you think that we need to add on our society to make those kind of environmental messages to be more easy to get understood by the general population?
Well, actually, just yesterday I was talking to this sort of content creator who's Italian, but we're going to work on some posts in English, because he uses humor. And it's so funny that I've been like sending it to my friend this last month. And I just reached out, like, can we do something? And it's purely talking about very dense subjects, but they are in this very sort of, it's like a cartoon that speaks very fast, and it's very witty and very funny, but he drops some hard truths in there. it's so funny that it works, you know. So I think humor is an underrated tool that people will like. He talks about how clams are the filter feeders of the oceans, right? And that means that whenever you eat a clam, you're eating microplastics because they clean the ocean and we contaminate it with heavy metals and plastics. So by eating clams, you're also eating that. But delivering it in such a funny way that it's not so, you know, statistical and so boring. So I think in terms of storytelling, that's really something that we want to start. And I think it's like an untapped. And I think you're also like, you're very captivating because you're also funny, you know, that works also in your.
I don't think I'm funny, but anyway, thank you.
It's using humor is definitely, I think, underrated tool that we should use more.
I have a discussion the other day with Ronaldo, and we are like discussing about the importance of formal education to create some background for people get ready to get touched by the messages, and that's the way that the Blue schools and the Blue curriculum are trying to increase the amount of ocean content related at basic level and mid-level schools. And with that in mind, I do believe that is a very good way to increase the power of the messages of this kind of communications that we do over the internet, and to make people more like ready to get that kind of information. And well, I don't know if we do still have more time. We have a lot of other questions, but Ronaldo told me that we cannot. Yes, we are. Can we? It's 3:30. I thought it was 3. I was like, so now we super have a lot of time. Great. Now I have to open that questions and answers again. So we do have lots of other questions very similar to those that are related with the fishing industry and how Seaspiracy thinks and related to that. One of that is, I thought that one of the most popular one that they sent us to us in the Mentimeter is why Seaspiracy was great at getting the public to discuss the unsexy topics, said fishery management. The storytelling involved was very blessed and sensational. Does this underdetermine its credibility? What do you think of the credibility of the message, because it's too rough?
I think that why Seaspiracy was so popular was because it was so sensationalist, in the sense that it was for the mass public. You know, maybe here we're a niche that is maybe has more ocean education, is more well-versed in the topics, will say, oh, it's just a theory that the oceans will be empty by 2050. Arguably, most science is just a theory, right? But what it was really good at doing was just doing a Netflix for the mass audience, like blockbuster movie, to and condense really big facts into really easy infographics and really easy to understand. Like those infographics, like the only fact that was, let's say, attacked the most was the fact that the oceans, that theory that the oceans will be empty by 2050. Like that was the most criticized by other scientists and ocean activists. And then, of course, the documentary has a huge part that focuses against the bigger organizations like Oceana, right? It criticizes how Oceana has these bigger partnerships, so it can't talk about how fishing nets are the largest plastic pollution in the world. But I think fast forward, 4 years since the movie came out, all ocean organizations are now talking about the fishing industry. You have David Attenborough that just came out with his, first ocean-focused documentary, and it's a bottom trawler. So in that case, I really think Seaspiracy was a pioneer in just talking about an out of sight, out of mind problem that nobody wanted to really talk about in the space. And the way he does it, the storytelling Ali does, is genius because everyone can relate to it. You know, he's just a young guy that's like, I love the whales, but there's a plastic problem, so I'm just gonna pick up straws on the beach. And then he starts this like, you know, home investigation. And it's so raw and so honest and true. Like him and his wife just actually start like from, you know, going to what are the straws on the beach, like following that thread, like what this whole seminar is about. Like they follow a thread and then unveil this huge fishing industry empire that's actually lobbying everyone to shut up and not talk about the real issue, which is we're simply just overfishing. And the techniques, right? It was the first time these techniques were shown, you know, were shown in a very simple infographic way. Like I think nobody who's seen the documentary will forget the infographic that you can fit like 3 jumbo jets in some trawlers. And it's sad, like some people ask me, like, is the documentary true? And I'm like, I really, really want to tell you it is hyperinflated. It would be my dream to tell you it's not true. It's all just exaggerated, but it's just so sadly true. You know, I saw a gillnet for the first time in my life 3 weeks ago swimming here, and it had 2 dead turtles. And that was not even probably an industrial gillnet, you know. So imagine the industrial gillnet would have 20 dead turtles. So it's, I didn't work on the making of the documentary. I've been working on the Seaspiracy Foundation in the last 3 years. But I can tell you that as our job is to pretty much check what's been happening, what is currently happening in terms of the laws, in terms of the campaigns, in terms of anything related to the fishing industry. It is actually so much darker than the documentary was just kind of like a teaser. Like I really would love to do, you know, because we don't have funding, so it's very hard to do, but I would love to do like small series on all the other crazy fishing, intense fishing industry practices that happen, because we try to just condense it on a Instagram post and now our newsletter. But it would be so much more visually interesting if we had the budget to do it on a documentary, because it's just so crazy. You know, just in Alaska, you have the pollock industry that is messing with the crab industry. So they even mess with each other because this is a really interesting case where in the Bering Strait, you have one of the biggest fisheries in the world, which is pollock. It's like this white fish that is from the North Sea, and it's mainly used in like fish sticks. Like in the US, it's like in all the school lunches, or like this fish fillet that they have in the US, right? That's pollock. And it's a huge industry that lobbies the government. And you have these really, like the only ways that you do have like these agreements within, because the ocean is unregulated, which is also an issue, right? But you have these fishing kind of organizations that control the quotas. And the pollock industry always wins the quotas and always has more money to win over the politicians. But they trawl, and when they trawl, they take also the crabs as bycatch, and then they throw the crabs overboard. But in that same area, you have a crab industry. And so the crab industry is like to the pollock industry, why are you taking all my crabs? You're bycatching all my crabs. You should have a smaller quota. So it's to the level that even within the industry, they're just, you know, messing with each other. Like they're just decimating the ocean to the point that the other industry can't even fish anymore. And they're both big guys, but one is richer than the other, so he just doesn't care. And that's just like one of so many crazy stories. It's, you know, in West Africa, you have the salmon feed industry. And this is all European and European companies that went to West Africa and opened like fish meal companies. So they take the local fish, which the locals have traditionally fished for several years, and they turn it into food for salmon. And they send that food to mainly Norway, to farms, right? to then sell the salmon back to other people. So people are like, oh yeah, we don't eat fish, but we eat, farmed fish. You eat farmed fish, for every one farmed salmon, you might as well count at least 5 other wild fish to feed that salmon. And that is insane. And you have actually court cases in Ghana and in the Ivory Coast against these European companies saying, you are overfishing our coasts. Like our traditional fishermen don't have fish anymore because you're feeding it to salmon. Like the craziness of the European industrial fishing companies would rather feed salmon than let the countries have their own fish, but those court cases barely make it on our news. Like nobody talks about it. And we talk to a lot of legal lawyer companies in the UK that feed us this information because they're too scared to say it themselves sometimes. So it's, like Seaspiracy is a kind of worms when they just touch the little bit of the insanity that happens within the fishing industry. And it's really the out of sight, out of mind. Similarly with all the, violence and all the human trafficking abuses that happen out at sea.
And the thing is, that kind of out of sight, out of mind is an issue that the internet is somehow trying to, or not trying purposely, but giving some hints of how can we do that, because it's a place where everybody can find a way to speak or to have a little bit of space to speak. And I do got another question here that it's interesting, so I can say what in Oceano we do, and it's really interesting. How can we measure the impact of storytelling on behavioral change, especially when founders want to measure return on investment? It's something that will be magical to have an answer to that. Change culture, change perspective of the society is really hard to measure with a token, like how many views, how many followers. It's something that is not even on the platforms like on Instagram. When a video that we post is really successful, it goes out of the platform right away. If we do find the results of our job in other platforms, not the one that we posted it firstly, that means that it is successfully, but it's not measurable. And anyway, if we get the ability to get the numbers on, it's not measuring the change of the behavior. What we can try to say about that is some samples of cases that we had in the past that we were able to somehow measure by the results that we got. I don't know if you guys follow, but around a year or 2 years ago, I don't quite remember the date, but we have this issue on the legislation level here in Brazil that they're trying to approve a law that was in 2 steps ahead, intended to sell the rights for big hotels, resorts, to explore the beach areas in a different way that our legislation allowed us to do. So we tried to do something that put that in the media and bring everybody's attention by getting a hook that everybody, it doesn't matter which side of the political spectrum, are following, just telling the people that they are somehow blocking the chance that they can reach the beach as much as they want. So a beach is a very important place for us Brazilians. It's really important. Everybody here feels like they own the beach, because the beach is where they can, where we can be free, and we are feel like we are so democratic because it's a place that everybody can reach. So somehow has the risk or the chance of not being able to go to the beach because you are not allowed it because it's blocked or it's closed by hotel. It's something that really messes up with our society. And we were able to make a huge wave of community impact, and people were really sending message to the decision makers, to the policy makers, and they do we did a very big, huge noise, and everybody followed that. Then they did not approve the law. So we are not able to measure if the communications that we started has the responsibility of block that law to pass, but it makes a huge volume of rumors and comments, and people get like very angry of how they are dealing with the issue. Right side, left side, everybody on the political spectrum was like very upset with that, and we are not able to measure again the impact on the decision, but we could saw that they did not approve the law, and that's somehow something that we can think that by changing the communication and changing the narrative and engaging the community with a narrative that it's somehow related to their daily lives, it's very sensitive and make a lot of sense. We are ready to the end. I just have this sign that we don't have any more time. I don't know, but well, it was amazing to have we here. I know that we get a lot of uncomfortable comments and subjects, but it's that what we wanted to do in the communication, get people uncomfortable so we can talk about.
I just wanted to comment on what you just said. I think it's really beautiful, really impressive. We do the same thing. Out of all the examples, I don't know whether our single post or campaign was the impetus for the policy change. But it feels amazing to see those successes, right? And I think overall, it's when you realize, and we are lucky that we're in a democracy, right? But you do have, power to the people. Like, people have the power to change, and that's what we're doing with using tools like social media to show that, in a way, you have these Goliaths at the top that are just abusing the system, and there's a corrupt system, and it's the same story if you are in Alaska, or if you're in Ghana, or if you're here, or in Europe, right? It's not, nobody is kind of safe from it. And information and knowledge and awareness is how you get the people to realize that they have the power. It's subsidies. Subsidies are our tax money, and it's being used to destroy the ocean and much more, right? But just for people to realize, like, the power in democracies is technically, theoretically, within the people, not the lobbyists. Not the lobbyists, not the companies. So by, I think, really doing the work that like you did with the beaches and really supporting the small amount of people that are trying to take that and amplify that, and doing a campaign and having the balls to do it with probably no funding, which tends to be the case, is really important, because it's the foundation of any democracy. Technically, if anyone here has watched Captain Fantastic, it's power to the people, and we stick it to the man.
That's it. Now we have a different proposal to do to the people that are in the School of Advanced Science, Ocean Literacy. That is a kind of a provocation. We discussed a lot of how communication can change society's perspective, and how can we build up tools to link people with the ocean. And we are trying to do that very, very hard on internet, on TV. A lot of movements are trying to do our best just to make people more aware and more connected to the ocean. So I have this idea, and share with Ronaldo and the organization of the SPSAS, and we came out with a thought, a challenge. If you have one post to change the perspective of people please be more creative. People that is not related to the ocean. We have to cross the bubble. We have to reach people that is not aware and there is not like conscious of what we are doing, how we are dealing, and they don't have any kind of a conscience of how dependent we are from the ocean. But if you have just one post to impact those people, what you will post? So the idea, the challenge, is for you guys to organize yourselves in 10 groups, and I think Ronaldo is going to send a WhatsApp message at the group to try to make it happen. And each one of those 10 groups build up a post. It could be anything you want. It could be a video, it could be a carousel, it could be an image, a text of any subject that you think it's the topic that you guys on your group think that this is the topic that we are work to change perspective of this kind of this group of people of the ocean. So the idea is for you, the challenge is for you to do that, create this post, and up to Sunday, get back to Ronaldo on group. I don't know exactly the dynamic, how we're going to work with that, but Ronaldo is going to send up the message on WhatsApp. But the idea is that any of these 10 groups builds up a post, and started to post it on next week when the event finish. And you tag us, Oceano_org and Conspiracy, and with the hashtag SPSAS_OL, Ocean Literacy. So if it is aligned with what we do on our internet, we can help to promote that message and help to reach more people, to change more minds and make more people related to the ocean by your idea, your post, your communication efforts in that direction. So until Sunday, any one of those 10 groups, please send it to Ronaldo, the reels, video, carousel, images, whatever you guys think is the best. And from we are going to see that with Ronaldo is going to send us that as well, so we can have the opportunity to send you guys some hints or ideas or more provocations to get more effective on what we thought that could be good for that. But the idea is to change a little bit the perspective of how do you guys communicate, and how do you guys have the sensitive idea of impact more people. So by the end of the day, Ronaldo is going to send you guys a WhatsApp message with that. And with that, I say thank you guys for having us here. Thank you guys for the space, for the stage, for your time, for the experiences that the three amazing people that came up to the stage share with us. And, well, thank you. Thank you for that. I don't know if you have any final words to say to thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rodrigo. Thank you, Ronaldo, for organizing. And, yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you, guys. And have fun the rest of the week.
Okay, everyone, then we'll have now a small break and come back to start at 4. And before you go and stretch, Alessandra, are you in the room? No, I'm not seeing. I just want to give you a quick feedback for the people from the school that were doing the field works in the schools in São Vicente. We have 2 members of the scientific committee, the ones that selected you, Alessandra and Tanya, that were here. And Alessandra was the one helping us to organize the visits to the schools in São Vicente. And she just came with the feedback that the schools gave, that today the students want to know how they can learn better English or Spanish, and how can they become scientists, because yesterday they received scientists that speak different languages, and they want to be as you. So